I absolutely hate myself because there's been some massive shifts on Underdog Fantasy since April, and I have not been taking advantage of them to the extent that I should have. But now some of these running backs that I thought were overvalued a few months ago are now super undervalued today. First player that we're talking about is going to be Kyren Williams, and I know I literally just put out a video a few days ago talking about Kyren Williams, but if we're looking at him over on Underdog, he's right now coming off the board as RB8, but he has lost about 15 spots of ADP. We're talking about a whole round right now for Mr. Kyren Williams. When we're talking about him on ADP on April 5th, he was going off the board as like overall 13. So he was going in the early second round. Now on July 11th, we're talking about him going off the board as player 29. Usually can get him in the early part of the third round, which for a lot of us has kind of become an auto smash because Kyren Williams was the RB2 on a points per game basis last year. Now a lot of people are worried about the overall durability of Kyren Williams because last year we did see that he only played in 12 total games, but 12 total games at 21 fantasy points per game, sign me the heck up. I know a lot of people are worried about Blake Corum, who got the draft capital, and a lot of people are saying, hey, Blake Corum's a better running back than Kyren Williams. Well, has Blake Corum rushed for 1,100 yards and 15 total touchdowns in the NFL? Now, Sean McVay is an absolute offensive genius, so I'm sure if somehow Blake Corum were to have to step up and be the bell cow, that'd be great. But Kyren Williams, still young, 23 years old. There's not enough for me to say I don't like Kyren Williams because he was RB1 on a snap share. So I know a lot of people are worried, hey, if all of a sudden that 83% snap share goes down to like 75 or 70, he's not going to be the same guy. Well, what if he gets a little bit more efficient? And what if this year, as Cooper Kupp continues to age, the Rams actually run the ball a little bit more? I don't know. I am just saying that the current value on Kyren Williams is worth the squeeze. We usually, with a running back like this, you would have to be taking Kyren Williams at the back end of your first round. You're getting literally early third round value on a guy that you should be taking every shot on in Underdog, because if he ends up being the same type of dude, you literally just got a 2-round discount on my man Kyren Williams. So like I said, I wasn't drafting him early on in the offseason, but listen, we all make mistakes. We all can adjust, and Kyren Williams is that guy for me. My next guy that we're going to be talking about is Travis Etienne. And Travis Etienne since April has actually dropped 6 total spots, which 6 total spots doesn't seem like a lot, but he's gone from overall player 37 to overall player 44. So we are cemented Travis Etienne into the 4th round of your Underdog drafts. Now, the concerns with Travis Etienne are very similar to the concerns with Kyren Williams, is that people are worried about the committee that Travis Etienne might be in, because Doug Peterson, I swear, the last 2 years in his conferences has said, oh, we want to have a running back by committee. We take Tank Bigsby. Everyone gets a little bit worried. We see Tank Bigsby doesn't really do a lot. Then we get this offseason. They don't draft anybody of significance. We're again worried about Tank Bigsby. Like last year, Travis Etienne was RB7 on a points per game basis, 16.6 fantasy points per game. Now, I will say this. Travis Etienne definitely towards the end of the season definitely started to wear down. Those overall high-end games kind of stopped, because when we're looking at his peak right here from like week 5 to week 8 was absolutely incredible, where he had 36, 23, 22, 25 fantasy points, and then he kind of had a little bit of a downstretch, 6, 8, 12, 17, 17, 9, 6, 25, 13. So when you needed him the most, he really wasn't providing the points per game difference that you needed to win your actual fantasy football league. But ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about the RB7 right now, going off the board as RB10. And a lot could go his way in an offense that got rid of Calvin Ridley. They bring in Brian Thomas. They bring in Gabe Davis. They didn't really bring in any touches that make me concerned. So I don't understand our worry, like especially in drafts where I want to go here RB. You could literally address the wide receiver in the first 3 rounds and then absolutely hammer Travis Etienne. Now, when we're looking at the multi-site ADP, because I know I've been citing Underdog, like overall, Travis Etienne's going off the board as RB9, overall player 24. So he probably is a little bit more of that second round pick when we're talking about him in ESPN and CBS, because a lot of those formats, you know, it's not 3 wide receiver, it's 2 wide receiver, a little less flex, maybe a little bit more on less PPR format. So standard, of course, the running backs go a little bit earlier, but still, based on everything I just told you, RB9 consensus, come on. Give me all the Travis Etienne that I can. I think that value is absolutely crazy. Next guy we're going to be talking about. Like I said, I think some of these higher end running backs right now, the value's absolutely ridiculous that we need to be taking advantage of. Next guy is going to be Josh Jacobs for the Green Bay Packers. And Josh Jacobs, since April, has lost 22 spots. So has almost gone down 2 whole rounds in Underdog ADP, but he is maintaining as the RB12. And ladies and gentlemen, Josh Jacobs is entering an offense that might be the best of his career. And we don't need to remember that last year had the holdout, had a little bit of injuries happening. Josh Jacobs was the RB 18 on a points per game basis. So it's nothing to scream about, especially the fact that when we're looking at Josh Jacobs right now, currently on Underdog, it's going off the board as RB 12. But let's not forget that in 2022, he was the RB 3 on a points per game basis with 19.3. He had 12 total touchdowns. He had 53 receptions. He had 340 rushing attempts. My dude was an absolute bell cow. I think he can still do that. Now, the Green Bay Packers, you still have A.J. Dillon. They draft Marshawn Lloyd. So there are some really good running backs behind Josh Jacobs in this offense that he hasn't had to deal with in previous years. I still think they brought him in for a reason. They gave him the contract. He's going to be the bell cow, especially with Jordan Love, who is a non-mobile quarterback. I think those receptions, I think he can get more than what he had last year where he had 37. I think he can get back to being close to 50. And if he can get back to that, I think that top-end RB upside is 100% going to be there. Now, I know the question is going to be like, where do I have to be drafting Josh Jacobs? Because like we said, in Underdog right now, he's going off the board in the 5th round, overall pick 53. If we're looking at overall like fantasy football rankings as a whole, Josh Jacobs is actually going off the board as the overall 34 player, RB 12. So like I said, Underdog, typically the running backs get pushed down the board a little bit more. So if we're drafting right now on Underdog, just know you can wait on Josh Jacobs. If we're drafting him anywhere else right now, his ADP is at overall player 34, which still feels really good according to the value, especially depending if you're not playing in full PPR, playing in half PPR. Josh Jacobs, man, we made some mistakes not drafting enough Josh Jacobs, but we're definitely correcting that now and going back for some Josh Jacobs. And talking about another running back that I think has definitely fallen down the boards quite a bit is going to be Mr. Rachaad White. And we talked about Rachaad White literally earlier last week. And I feel like I'm just beating the drum for Rachaad White because right now has dropped 17 spots over on Underdog. Overall, when we're looking at the overall rankings, RB 14, overall player 42. And I'm ready to eat crow with Rachaad White because honestly, during earlier this offseason, I was honestly not the biggest Rachaad White guy. But the fact of the matter is RB 10 last year on a points per game basis, a lot of people are worried, hey, those receptions that Rachaad White got, 64, there's no way he does that again this year. Even though in 2022 he had 50. Like, there's no way he can get those receptions again. That was the only thing keeping him afloat, Caleb, because that yards per carry at 3.6 was not good. Okay. But none of that's my concern with Rachaad White because I think this offense, even with no Dave Canales, which we can agree Dave Canales was a smart cookie, throwing Rachaad White so many passes because the offense wasn't able to run the ball, so they were using screens, they were using short pass plays of Rachaad White to essentially be their running game. I think the upside's even more there. I think the Tampa Bay Bucks as a whole, they're going to have to throw the ball a lot. And the 9 total touchdowns last year can definitely be replicated for a guy like Rachaad White, who last year had a 77% snap share. So I know a lot of people are worried, oh my goodness, Caleb, Bucky Irving's going to eat into his work. Like if Bucky Irving gets, let's say 30% of the snap share, and all of a sudden 7% of Rachaad White's snap share has kind of gone down, that's where his price is at. What if Rachaad White ends up having 75% snap share this year, and all of a sudden you're drafting him at RB 14, you're getting quite the value in any type of PPR format. Now, if we're playing in standard, I'll give that to you. I think the value drop in standard is definitely worth it. The fact that it's happening on Underdog in a half PPR format, the fact that it's happening even just in regular formats, like, come on guys. Rachaad White is that type of dude, and I am not concerned or worried at all about it. So if you like this video, hit the like and subscribe button. We are putting out more fantasy football content each and every day. So hit that like button. We are helping you win some fantasy football championships once you're here in the community that we are building. If you want to draft with us over on Underdog, use code Caleb100. It will give you a 50% deposit match, a special pick'em, as well as you'll get my draft guide when it comes out. I appreciate you guys so much for all the support. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.